Welcome back to the Hill Update. I'm your host, Dean Allison, Member of Parliament for Niagara West. Joining me on the show today is George Glover. George Glover is the president of GM&F Partners, a company dedicated to helping serve nonprofits with growing their organizations. George is the founder of Teen Challenge in London, Ontario, for over 40 years, where he helped grow the organization from a single site to multi-sites across the country. George, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks for having me.
Listen, let's give a sort of a state of the union of where we're at in Canada. I know that we've had almost 50,000 deaths as a result of overdoses in Canada over the last 9 years. So just your thought on what's changed, where have we been? I mean, you've been a large part of treatment, and we'll get into some of the options in the other segments, but what's sort of going on in Canada right now?
Well, we're in the midst of an opioid crisis from my perspective, and the news confirms that, Dean. Here's four statistics just off the top here. First of all, today, 200 Canadians across Canada will die as a result of opioid toxicity somewhere in Canada. That's a tragic number just today alone. Second of all, on average, there's an opioid death every 3 hours in Ontario. Right now. That's happening. That's current stats. And in Alberta last year, there were 2,000 drug-related deaths in the province of Alberta alone. And in Saskatchewan has the highest per capita rate of substance addiction in the country. Last stat is that 73,000 deaths are attributed directly to substance abuse last year in Canada and every year. So it's clear that we absolutely have a crisis on our hands. It's clear that we need the next government to do something significant and innovative to address this need.
So what are some of the things that you would say have contributed to an increase? Because it has definitely been an increase over the last little while. I mean, obviously COVID was tough on people, cost of living, mental illness. What are the things that go into the challenge of why we have seen such a high growth?
Good question, Dean. I guess from my vantage point is probably stress of society is continuing, the high cost of living, groceries, gasoline, everything else. Canadians are being marginalized like never before, and it's tough to get good jobs. It's tough to get pay that handles the cost of living increase every year. And there, of course, there's a much higher availability of substances. And of course, there is a movement here and there in Canada to decriminalize drugs as well. So it's a confluence of factors that are contributing to the growing rate of drug use in Canada.
So I guess you raised a great point in terms of cost of living, or maybe not having meaningful or work that actually can pay the bills as a contributing factor. Yeah, why do you think that is? I mean, at the end of the day, is is it the economy's not maybe moving in the way it should, or there's not a good enough sense of well-paying jobs? Like, what kinds of things contribute to this?
Well, certainly affordable housing. The country, as we all know, is faced with the tremendous homelessness problem in every corner. It's certainly bad in Western Canada, particularly so in British Columbia. There are a lot of factors, but the cost of housing is one of the big factors, and people just can't afford to rent. They can't afford to save to buy a house. Jobs are not in plentiful supply. Even people with university educations. One of the MBA schools in Canada has the lowest job acquisition rate postgraduate degree this year of any recent year. So these are all evidences that we have some deep fundamental problems that need addressing.
So we got about a minute left in this segment. I guess the what I'd ask you though, this affects everybody, and so there's not any clear demographic. I mean, this could be anybody that this could happen to. Just maybe what's your experience have been in terms of people that are coming in for treatment or are struggling with addictions? And I guess it's got no respect of demographics at all, does it?
No, it really doesn't. Of course, people do stigmatize people that are involved with addictions, but really it's affecting, all races, creeds, economic strata. That people are experimenting with drugs and then getting entrenched in the habit and having to medicate the pain even more. And so, it's not necessarily teenagers, it's young adults, it's people in their 50s that are becoming slaves to it. And of course, it's combined with the fact that many of the drugs are poisoned on the street with other things. And of course, that's increasing the death rate as well. So it is a complex problem, but it's time that, whoever forms the next government, they need to address this problem as one of the top priorities.
Okay, let's go to break. We'll come back and talk about that.